Okay, so now we're looking at drawing this design for the top plate, where the actual mounts will go, or the hooks for the coats. So I took a measurement that was approximately halfway, just because of the shape, the organic shape. I didn't really care if it was exactly in the middle. I drew a very faint line with another straight edge. I actually used this board here because it has a very straight edge on it to draw the line between 2 points that I measured equally. And then I started from the point and I went up, and then I came back down and did another curve, and I made the shapes basically like what I had on the computer that you guys saw earlier. And so now that all of these shapes are done, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points that I'm going to use for hanging coats on. What I'm going to do now though is I'm going to move all this stuff that I've prepared off the side, and we're going to cut this out with the jigsaw. Now it's important that when you do this you have space, you have room, and then we can actually cut this with the jigsaw so that we can turn the wood and everything. Like I said before, I have the jigsaw set up and the styrofoam so that I can use the jigsaw anywhere on the table and it not break my blade. What I did was, that center line that I drew is very light, just so that when I sand it, it won't cause us any problems. And then the other lines I drew fairly darkly, just so that I don't misunderstand which lines I'm trying to cut. And then I'll just follow those. So here we go. I'm going to start cutting these, and then we'll see what happens at the end so you can see the final shape. Another thing to keep in mind with the jigsaw is that when you're buying blades, buy the appropriate blade for what you need. There are some with more or less teeth. The ones with less teeth are usually a little sharper and they cut really quickly, but they will rip out chunks of your plywood, which isn't good. So because plywood is so thin, each layer, and it's granular, you're always going to have to worry about rip out or tear out. And with that in mind, make sure you get a nice fine blade. Try to keep them good and sharp so that you don't have issues with them, and that they're not messing up everything that you've worked so hard on. You can cut this with the finished side up, or you can cut it reversed. It's up to you. Another thing to keep in mind with jigsaws is that you want to try and not start from one side and finish from the other. You want to be able to swing all the way around with it, because it won't match on the other side. Even though you could sand it out and make it right, it's just a little bit more work. Plus, when you're cutting, you want to cut on the side of the line, not directly on the line, but on the side of the line, more in the scrap area, which in this case are these cutouts that I'm making. So that way you leave as much meat as possible on the finished design. Another thing is, don't force your jigsaw. Let it do the work. You have to keep pressure applied, but you don't want to force it. But that's extremely important, because you'll just end up damaging the design and your jigsaw itself. Also, depending on how much time you want to spend on finish work, you can cut as precisely or as sloppy as you want with the jigsaw. Just remember that the sloppier the cut, the more work you're going to have to do sanding and finishing. And so there we have one side of this, and now all I have to do is make 3 more cuts and we'll be good. If I had planned on keeping this a very sharp edge like it is here, I would have probably wanted to cut it reversed. But I don't want that today. I'm going to round these off. So what I'm going to do is I just cut it with the face side up, and then I'll go back and I'll sand it, and I'll round these corners off with a piece of sandpaper, and we'll be good.